The morning my daughter came back, I knew it wasn't for love. A black car pulled into my driveway. High heels stepped onto the pavement. A man in a grey suit followed, gripping a leather briefcase like it held something precious. It did. $3.2 million, worth of it. She hadn't come when her 6-year-old autistic son needed her. She hadn't come when he was bullied. She hadn't come when he built his first app. But now that he was successful, now she was here. And what happened next is something I will never forget. My name is Alice Whitmore. I am 75 years old, and this is the story of the day my daughter came back for millions. Welcome to my YouTube channel Moral Ecos, where silence speaks. My name is Alice Whitmore. I am 75 years old, and I have learned that betrayal doesn't always arrive with raised voices or slammed doors. Sometimes it comes wearing lipstick and a polite smile. Sometimes it carries a leather briefcase. And sometimes it returns years later, after the child it once abandoned becomes worth $3.2 million. But this is not a story about money. It is a story about staying. It is a story about a boy the world misunderstood. And it is a story about the day my daughter came back, with a lawyer in one hand and entitlement in the other. The day she walked away. Daniel was 6 years old when Rebecca left him. 6. At that age, children still believe their mothers are permanent, like gravity, like the sun. Rebecca stood in my hallway that afternoon, mascara smudged from angry tears, her suitcase leaning against the wall like a final decision. "I can't do this anymore, Mom," she cried. "He doesn't act like other kids, he doesn't hug me, he doesn't even look at me." Daniel stood in the corner, clutching his blue plastic dinosaur so tightly his knuckles turned white. He rocked gently back and forth, humming under his breath to drown out the shouting. 3 years earlier, the doctors had used the word autism. Rebecca heard limitation. I heard difference. "He needs patience," I told her. "I need a life," she replied. And just like that, she chose hers. The door closed. Daniel didn't run after her. He didn't scream. He just asked one quiet question that still echoes in my bones. Did I do something wrong? That was the day I stopped being just a grandmother. I became his mother. Learning his world. Raising a child at 70 is not something you plan for. My friends were joining book clubs and planning cruises. I was researching sensory-friendly schools and attending therapy sessions. Daniel experienced the world differently. Bright lights felt like needles in his eyes. Loud noises felt like explosions in his chest. Crowded rooms suffocated him. But numbers were calm. Patterns were predictable. Computers were safe. When he was 8, I brought home an old desktop computer from a neighbor who was upgrading. The machine was bulky and slow, humming like an old refrigerator. To Daniel, it was magic. He sat in front of it for hours, fingers hovering cautiously over the keyboard at first, then dancing. Within weeks, he was navigating programs without help. Within months, he was teaching himself basic coding from online tutorials. For the first time since Rebecca left, I saw something bloom inside him. Not just focus, purpose. The boy they called broken. School was not kind. Children notice differences the way wolves notice weakness. Daniel avoided eye contact. He flapped his hands when excited. He interpreted jokes literally. He didn't understand sarcasm. One afternoon at 15, he came home with a bruise on his cheek and his backpack torn. "They said I'm broken," he told me calmly, as if reporting the weather. My heart shattered. I cupped his face in my hands. "You are not broken," I said firmly. "You are wired differently, and different wires power incredible machines." He studied my face as if analyzing truth in my expression. Then he nodded once. That night he coded until 2 a.m. The idea that changed everything. The idea for CalmPath was born out of anxiety. Daniel struggled with sudden schedule changes. If the bus was late or a teacher cancelled class unexpectedly, his day unraveled. One evening, after a particularly difficult meltdown, he sat at the kitchen table tapping his fingers rhythmically. "Schedules shouldn't collapse," he murmured. "What do you mean?" I asked. "There should be a system that adjusts automatically. If something changes, it reorganizes everything else. It should reduce stress, not increase it." I didn't fully understand, but I believed in him. For months, our house became a quiet laboratory. Sticky notes covered walls. Algorithms scribbled across notebooks. He barely noticed holidays. He forgot birthdays. But he didn't forget his vision. At 18, he uploaded the first version of CalmPath. We expected maybe a few hundred downloads. We got 10,000 in a week. Then 50,000. Then headlines. Parents of autistic children called it life-changing. Professionals with anxiety disorders said it saved their careers. Executives praised its predictive scheduling intelligence. Daniel read every review. Not for praise, but to see if it was helping. That's who he was. The offer. 3 years later, at 21, Daniel received an acquisition offer, $3.2 million. I nearly fainted when the lawyer said the number. Daniel blinked slowly. "Will they keep its core structure?" he asked. "They'll expand it," the representative said, "scale it globally." "Will it still reduce stress?" "Yes." He signed. The money changed our circumstances. It paid off debts. It funded therapy programs for underprivileged neurodivergent children. It secured Daniel's future. But it did not change his heart. And that is when Rebecca returned. The arrivals. It was a Tuesday morning. The sky was painfully blue. A sleek black car pulled into our driveway. Rebecca stepped out. She looked expensive, polished, rehearsed. Beside her stood a man in a grey suit holding a briefcase. My stomach tightened before a single word was spoken. "Hi, Mom," she said, smiling as if she'd only been gone a weekend. Daniel saw her through the window. His body froze. The demand. We sat in the living room. Rebecca crossed her legs elegantly. The lawyer opened his briefcase. "I've been following Daniel's success," she began. "I'm proud of him." Daniel stared at his hands. The lawyer spoke next. "As Daniel's biological mother, Rebecca is entitled to pursue a claim regarding intellectual property developed during his minority." There it was. Not apology. Not remorse. A claim. "You left him," I said quietly. Rebecca stiffened. I was overwhelmed. "You abandoned him." I was young. And he was 6. Daniel's breathing grew uneven. I placed my hand over his. He surprised us all by lifting his head and looking directly at her. "You didn't come to my science fair," he said. Rebecca blinked. "You didn't come when they diagnosed me." Silence. "You didn't come when they hurt me." Her lips trembled slightly. "But you came for money." The room felt airless. The battle. Rebecca filed her claim. She wanted a percentage of the sale. The case dragged on for months. It was exhausting, emotionally and financially. But she underestimated something powerful. Documentation. I had kept everything. Medical bills. School records. Emails unanswered. Proof of 0 financial support. 0 visitation. 0 effort. The courtroom day was suffocating. Rebecca avoided eye contact. Daniel sat upright, calm but pale. The judge reviewed the evidence carefully. Finally, his voice echoed through the room. "Parental rights require parental responsibility. Ms. Whitmore forfeited those responsibilities years ago. Her claim is denied." Denied. Rebecca's face went blank. She walked out without looking back. Again. The letter. A week later, Daniel told me he had written her a letter. You did? I asked. Yes. What did it say? He paused. I told her I forgive her. My breath caught. Why? Because anger is inefficient. That was Daniel. Logical. And somehow wiser than all of us. Who he became. Today, Daniel is 25. He's building new technology for non-verbal children. He speaks at conferences about neurodiversity. He mentors young coders who feel invisible. He still hums when he thinks. He still prefers routines. He still hates fluorescent lights. But he stands taller now. Not because he's wealthy. Because he knows he is enough. What I learned at 75. At 75 my hands ache. My steps are slower. But my heart is steady. If life asked me to choose again, to raise that quiet boy with stormy eyes and brilliant code, I would say yes without hesitation. Because here is the truth. Success does not make a person valuable. Money does not create worth. Love does. And love is proven by presence. Rebecca shared his DNA. But I shared his days. And when the world tried to label him broken, I stayed long enough to see him become extraordinary. The moral: never underestimate the quiet child. Never measure worth by convenience. And never assume that walking away erases responsibility. The ones who stay build the future. The ones who leave may return, but they return as strangers. My name is Alice Whitmore. I am 75 years old. And this is the story of the day my daughter came back for millions, but lost something priceless: her son.